Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Somebody that asked me to touch on spiritual warfare in relationships. And I think that's a very great question. It's a very deep question too. Very, very deep. And something that is extremely difficult to cover. I probably should be sitting down and not covering this while I'm driving, but it's something very deep to cover. But when you think about it in a more basic sense, not going ocean deep with it, you think about spirits and spirits having dispositions. And so imagine a spirit that's raised in the ghetto. Imagine a spirit that's raised in opulence and extreme wealth, extreme privilege. Imagine a spirit that's raised in a homosexual home. Imagine a spirit that's raised in a single parent home, a single mother home, or a single father home. That's two different experiences. And when I say spirit, I don't just mean like a external spirit, like an evil spirit, that like a demon, but I mean your spirit, meaning the human spirit. As you've heard people say, we are spirits having a human experience, and whatever that means to you. But what happens in a relationship is there becomes either a battle of the spirits or a merging of the spirits. And so either way, it's a merging of the spirit. But if the spirits are at odds, so if one person comes from the bottom, the ghetto, the projects, that person could have negative feelings toward someone who comes from privilege, because they may say, hey, I had names for the roaches in my apartment and there were gunshots ringing out every night while I was trying to study. All I could hear were police sirens and ambulance sirens, and my neighbor would get beat every week, and I would hear her screaming and yelling at the top of her lungs as she's being beaten. And above me, I would be woken up from a squeaky bed when my freaky upstairs neighbor is sleeping with a different woman every night. But here you were in your nice king size bed with top of the line luxury car and the best clothes, and you never got bullied for having old shoes on or hand-me-down clothes. So now these spirits come together, and the spirit that feels disadvantaged, overlooked, marginalized could feel a way toward this other spirit. Another thing I didn't mention is like the spirit raised by naturalized citizens or immigrant parents, whichever you would call it, or immigrant parents who may not have gotten citizenship. And so there's a hunger, there's a grit, there's a grind, and that person may feel a way about a person who is natural born in your country, and may say, hey, you don't understand what it's like. You don't understand what a grind is. You don't understand what it's like to be me. You don't know what it's like to hear the stories of your parents coming over in the water. And I heard a guy my age that I grew up with just telling me about this with his parents, and how they told him about how they came over in the water, like from Haiti, and like how they got over to America. And I was like, wow. And I look at the grit that his father raised him with, and it's totally different than mine. Like he would tell me like his punishment would be like 500 squats in the morning before school, 500 push-ups, and that he literally would go to school like could barely walk, like walking like a mummy, because he's so sore. He said his friends would always know when he got in trouble because he would be walking like so stiff, so sore. And I've never once in my life had to do anything like that, but because of his dad's experiences, it made him gritty and tough because he understood real struggle. He understood real adversity. Whereas my dad had adversity, but it was different. And so he made my life easier instead of harder. And when actually what I'm calling harder would have later made my life easier. But at the same time, not necessarily, because it still worked out. Him allowing me to develop and to flourish, I'm able to use my mind freely and think very freely as an entrepreneur. And at this stage in my life, I can earn a living that's much better than a lot of men who their mind is bombarded with their past traumas. My dad didn't cause me any trauma in the name of love. And so I'm free from trauma, from parental trauma. And so I say that to say, this is where spiritual warfare happens on the surface level, which what we call spiritual warfare. And really it's humans being shaped by their conditions or their environment, and that shaping their mindset and their personality and their character, and then that clashing with the personality or the character or the mindset of the person that you get with. And so if two people are not on the same level and ready to love, instead of collaborating, they compete. And instead of being teammates, they become opponents. And instead of working together, you're at odds. And a lot of times the stronger tries to devour the weaker. Just like in the animal kingdom or what have you, like the saying, only the strong survive. That's how it is in a relationship. So a lot of times it happens one or two ways. Sometimes a person is mentally more devious, more mentally developed deviously because of being raised around savages and wolves. So they come in with this innocent, pure-minded person, and they can manipulate and twist and steal the mind of this person. And then you have sometimes people who are physically stronger because they were raised being abused or as a fighter, and they come into the relationship, and if they cannot conquer the other person mentally or emotionally, they will conquer them physically. And then sometimes you will have like what I went through with my past relationship, where one person is mentally abusive and the other is physically abusive, and one person is using their mind to abuse and the other ends up using their hands to abuse because of their strengths and weaknesses individually. And so you have to think about this, and this is where it's very important to be spiritually aligned so that you don't go into spiritual warfare with your partner. You have to be spiritually aligned, or you have to have a desire for growth and change and a thirst for a knowledge of yourself and emotional intelligence. Because no matter what human you get with, you will always be different, may even be polar opposites. And so that's where humility and growth and emotional intelligence come into play. So my wife and I, our experience is totally different. She tells me about being evicted more than 10 times before 9th grade, 13 times or 16 times, the number slipping my mind right now. She tells me about her mom only being able to afford a bean burrito for 89 cents from Taco Bell and them cutting it in half. She tells me about these experiences of sleeping in the car sometimes. She tells me about the experience of living with, you know, family, living with her aunt, living, you know, being left with, you know, just different random people to babysit her, and, you know, going through traumatic experiences. She tells me about getting put on a plane to fly across the country as a child, as a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old, flying from Florida to California because her parents were never married and never really together. And meeting her stepmother at the age of 3 and spending the entire summer with her dad. I have none of those experiences. Both of her parents coming from another country, Jamaica, and just building from scratch in America. I have none of those experiences. So her grit, her grind, her zeal for life, like, I didn't want for anything growing up. I wasn't in the lap of luxury and rich or nothing like that, but I didn't want for anything. So my wife is very intentional about birthdays because she never got anything for her birthdays or got much. Never could have a party. So my kids' parties were like $2,500 to like $5,000, and we were basically broke. Not really when we was broke. When we was broke, we had it at Chuck E. Cheese, but it was too much money in my opinion. But I had to realize, like, she's doing this because she has a void in her heart from not having birthday parties. And then when the party went off and I saw how happy my sons were, I was like, wow, this is something. So this is what I mean when I say spiritual warfare and spirits being at odds based on the different spirits that were fed in your life. And this is what you have to think about and be mindful of when you're dealing in a relationship, because someone else's spirit could seek to devour or destroy or conquer your spirit because of the inner pain or trauma that they're dealing with. And so you have to be mindful of this, and this is where you want to focus on your foundation. So my wife and I, we see politics the same. So when it's time to vote, we're on the same side. Whichever side we're on the same side because we see that the same. Raising kids.
Hey, sorry about the wait.
I got to pick up for Tony.
For Tony? Let me check on it for you.
Okay. We see that the same. When it was time for spankings, we were on that. Now we don't spank. You know, our sons are, they taught, they know well behavior, they don't get in trouble. They know the sound of our voice. Do what we say do, when we say do it, how we do it, and this is why. And so we see that the same. We're both Christian. The way we see money, it's the same, but I could say it's different, but it's really the same. Because we flex dramatic. We do the most. We like fashion, we like luxury, we like designer, and it's just making the money is not easy. But we like fine things. We like fine things in life. We like living life to the fullest. We don't like cutting corners. We're not couponers. I'm not a couponer. She's not a couponer. I'm not a budgeter. She's not a budgeter. You know, we live for today. We don't get too caught up in the future. We put up for the future, but we trust God daily. So if something arises in our life and we need to tap into a savings account, an investment account, we're totally fine doing that. We don't pluck our hair or go into depression if we have to empty an account, if we have to drain an account, living life. We see that the same. And for some people, that's a nightmare. That's the scariest thing in the world, but we embrace it. And so what I'm saying is our spirits are aligned and our foundation is the same. Uh-oh.
Here you go.
All righty, let me see what I could do here.
All right, here. I've got to take this off.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah, let me see here.
Take some of those dip cups off. Oh, I'll get you another one of those.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. And let me see if I could.
Let me go grab you another barbecue.
Okay. Y'all gotta forgive me. And see, this is the thing.
Ready, sir?
You know what? I was actually able
You don't
to.
gotta do all that.
I was able to get
You
it.
don't gotta have one off the floor.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bending down like that. Put the muscle in my neck. Ugh. Put the muscle in my neck. I don't know why I was straining like that. So, listen, we the same in the sense of, you see this here? I'm getting for dinner this pizza. This is wings. We not arguing over she want to eat celery and carrots dipped in ranch for dinner. We see life the same. You live once. Yes, don't eat filthy, disgusting every day, but a piece ain't gonna kill you. A burger ain't gonna kill you. And the people who come in my comment talking about, oh, animals not made to be ate because we don't have the same DNA. Blocked. It give mucus in the body. You know, hush. My grandma lived to 80-some years old. My wife, grandparents, 90 years old, and eat all kind of chicken and beef. It's like, go on somewhere with that nonsense. Like, y'all read an article and think you know it all. Let these people tell y'all anything and don't even understand the world always got an agenda. This society we live in, they got an agenda. They gonna push chicken one year. They gonna push veganism the next year. They gonna push vegetarianism the next year. They push and they create the documentaries based on the industries that they need to sell product in. A lot of people don't understand that. I'm not trying to live to 200 years old. If I see somebody got a diet that's a diet that I like and they touch 80, if the Lord let me see 80, I done had a full life. So go on somewhere with all that. But see, that's why I'm married to the woman I'm married, because we see our spirits, we spiritually aligned. If my wife was hollering about eating celery or carrots and mushrooms for dinner all the time, we wouldn't be able to work out. We wouldn't be able to work. You see what I'm saying? Now, you could be polar opposites. So you think with the right side of your brain. If I think with the right side of my brain, my wife think with the left side of hers. If she think with the left side of hers, I think with the right of mine. So what we can get into is tit for tat. Any way she sees something, I could see it the opposite way. Any way I see something, she could see it the opposite way, and we could just go back and forth and just not agree on anything, because we're gonna see stuff totally different. That is where maturity and emotional intelligence comes in. And that's where we could see eye to eye, and that's where we could still build together. And so at times I will think, okay, let me not argue this point. It's not worth it. And then at times she could think, okay, let me not argue this point. It's not worth it. You see what I mean? But see, if you're not spiritually aligned, then being different humans and having different thoughts and opinions, y'all would just end up arguing about everything. The color of the sky, the temperature in the house, the everything that's going on, y'all will just go back and forth, arguing, debating about everything, because you're not spiritually aligned, and you're not mature, and you're not emotionally intelligent. And so you just arguing about stuff that don't even matter. And you just seeing stuff totally opposite and different, and it doesn't even matter. So understand that right there. So this is what you have to be mindful of when you go into a relationship or you in a relationship. Are you spiritually aligned? Or are you in spiritual warfare with your spirit trying to conquer theirs, or their spirit trying to conquer yours? And is that spiritual becoming physical? Is it draining you? Is it breaking you? Is it killing you? And if that's the case, you got to address it immediately, and you got to get gone if the change isn't being made. So hey, this Tony Gaskins, God bless you. I had to put these videos together because my alarm went off. I got a coaching call in 5 minutes that I'm gonna have to push back about 15-30 minutes so I can eat dinner. But God bless y'all. We'll talk soon.